Welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week with a great entrepreneur who's here to help you build, launch, and grow your business. We're delighted to be joined this week by Edwin Frondozo. Edwin, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing amazing, Mal. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
It's a genuine pleasure. Edwin, your business is Slingshot, and I know it's got a variety of different kind of elements to it. But I wonder, first of all, what kind of got you going on your entrepreneur's journey?
Oh my God. I mean, if I were to say one thing, it was probably restlessness and the fact that I like to do many things. Being either a young human in school, always bored with everything, or getting into the workforce and doing one thing. I was very unchallenged for that, say. So entrepreneurship seemed like, outside looking in, the place where I could, thrive and allowed myself to learn many things. And man, has it been an amazing journey since.
You've learned those things, have you?
Sorry?
You've learned those things. You said there's a lot to learn, and you've learned them, have you, along the way?
Yeah, there's so many things to learn. You learn and you keep learning. The more you go along the path of any journey, and we'll call it entrepreneurship, the more you learn, right? You just see like this big amusement park, and let's call that entrepreneurship. But when you get closer to the gates and actually go through the gates, it seems like Candyland everywhere, and you don't know which way to go. But they don't tell you that there's booby traps all around the way, right? So it's an amazing thing. And then you ride on one ride because someone says, "Get onto this ride," aka do social media, and then it's a ride like this.
Yeah.
And then you got to get off that ride, and then you got to figure it all out. And maybe it's a helicopter ride and say, "Oh, here's all the pieces that makes the amusement park called entrepreneurship."
Yeah, and then that's later on, isn't it? When you can actually kind of get in that because you've got some idea of where you're going. But
that's right.
At the start, it is very, very. Nobody can tell you, can they, what it's going to be like?
Right. No one could tell you. You're going to have people, never understand. There are people in business who could share and help you along the way, but they can't say, "Here's my 10-step process," because they don't know my background, your background, the things that are holding us back, whatever, mentally, emotionally, however, trauma, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the challenges within the life internally, outside of business, and then the challenges economically. There's so many variables with entrepreneurship, Mal, and I'm sure with all the people you've spoken to, everyone has a unique entrepreneurship journey. There's no two people that had the exact same journey.
So true. And it's, so what we're always very keen to help where there is a kind of framework of people, just making sure you kind of check things if you've mentioned check things off, you've mentioned social media and things like that. There are things that you need to pay attention to along the way, but you're absolutely right. I think, for any entrepreneur starting out there, there's no kind of like, single guidebook that's going to take you from A to B to success. But the traits you've mentioned, which are really interesting, is kind of that kind of, I think, always like curiosity. Curiosity and resilience are kind of two features of entrepreneurs that I see playing out pretty much every day in every business that I come across.
Yeah, and you got to always be curious, right? There's one thing that I've been learning, and I've been really investigating, I guess, or getting more, I would say, not to be super meta, Mal, to be curious about curiosity.
Yeah, love it. Let's get up there.
My daughter's 5 now, but last year during COVID, thick of COVID, 4 years old. And when you have a young human in your life, you encourage the human to learn anything and everything. And it doesn't even matter if it's related. It could be one time they're painting, the next time they're jumping in the water or whatever.
Yeah.
But something changes as we grow old, which kind of, and we say, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that." There's no, like, what are you going to do when you grow up? That's not going to help you be a person or live a life. So then now we're actually, on hindsight, we're actually shutting down people's curiosity.
Yeah.
And we're saying, "Don't be curious, learn this thing."
Exactly. This is the right answer.
Right.
To that question, this is the answer.
So we do this as, guardians of our younger generation, and we don't realize that we're actually suppressing curiosity.
Yeah.
And curiosity is what keeps us as young humans thriving and like looking at the world in bewilderment, like this is amazing. Wow, look at this. This is great.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get older and we're like, oh no, I know that already. I'm
I
not
watched a TV
curious
show.
about that. I
I
don't
watched a
care how
TV
that works.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I think that, what I see in almost every entrepreneur is that kind of, there is that retention of that almost childlike kind of like, yeah, but what happens if I do this? And normally somebody's there going, no, don't do that. It's like, no, but I really want to, and it might work. And that's how we get going, right?
Yeah, it's embracing that multi-passionate person in us, right? In terms of this is who we are, as a young human or someone going into university or college, you're like, okay, what are you going to specialize in? And I never identified with that, but I did take computer engineering. But then all my friends were like artists, architects. Yeah. They're all in different streams just because I loved, variety, right? And this is all reflection, right? Now, this is like nothing I knew what I was doing at the time. Right. This was just me living life. Yeah, this was just me living life. But in terms of making sure I get back into my train of thought was I thought entrepreneurship would be like, okay, I'm the boss now. I could do whatever I want. But then you meet people, advisors, mentors, gurus, thought leaders, and they're all like, oh no, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, guess what, Mal? You have to be an expert in one thing. I'm like, oh my God, even everyone's telling me to do one thing, even my friends that are entrepreneurs. So it sort of was like, but how could I be successful in doing other things as well aside of my businesses? Anyways, that's my whole, I love, like I told you, I've been taking a deep dive in curiosity.
Yeah. And I love that. And that's so, I think for people listening in, it's, we spend so much time kind of head down, deep in, whether it's coding, whether it's kind of, marketing or sales, that actually to kind of come out a little bit and just kind of go, what's out there? Be a bit curious about whether, it comes down to as well about processes and procedures, right? Sometimes you just get locked into a certain way of going about things. It worked for a period of time and you just kind of stuck on it and you don't necessarily question it. So I think it's, that curiosity thing is just.
And especially if those processes have worked to get you to a point in your entrepreneurship journey where you're living a pretty good life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So now you're like, okay, this is working. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to be curious. I'm not going to rock the boat.
Yeah. The second I move over there, it's going to all fall apart.
Yeah. And then there's that fear, right? It becomes the unknown again. So you're going to stay there. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think as an entrepreneur or someone who was very curious to become an entrepreneur, we have to get outside of our mind and say, listen, okay, this process works. I don't need to manage this process anymore. I actually need to exit myself so I could do something new. Absolutely. And let that process go. Let it continue. Hire the people that could run that for you. Like, why do you have to stay there?
Absolutely right. And then you're off to the next thing and fixing it and enhancing that for sure. And I guess, Slingshot itself, that this comes from that drive from you, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been a longer, looking back, like at every journey, it's been a longer upswing because I've been learning all the stuff that I've been talking about. I've been learning in real time, right? It's like you hold on to everything, you do this, you know everything. And then you're like, oh, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I gotta bring a partner that could do that. And look for how do we grow and scale. It's really getting outside of your own ego, right? Because you have to have that sense of confidence becoming an entrepreneur, first of all, that you, like you said, you're curious, you're resilient. But then you have to be humble and say, but I don't know everything. Yeah. Actually, I need to bring everyone. And I actually don't like doing all the process stuff, right? Like, it's like, okay, I'm good at setting things up, but now if it becomes a day job, I've created myself a day job. Yeah. Now I might as well go back to like 20 years ago when I was working for someone.
And you become horrible, right? You just kind of sit there almost like really grumpy about it all because you're sitting there just doing this work.
You push it off. Push it off.
And it becomes a poor replica of what you actually set out to do. So yeah, absolutely. Finding your own skill set or playing to your own strengths rather than getting stuck doing something just because you're the only person there. There's plenty of
And to your point in terms of Slingshot, like that's where I am in the mindset now. And this is just over the last year is like, we've built a team, we've built a good platform and technology, but, we're in the conversations. How do we scale? So me, in my mind, when I think scale, I'm like, how do I exit every role that I'm still have a hand in? Mm-hmm. Because that's a success. When I could exit off one role, okay, that's good. Because even though I have released myself from many roles, it still operates with me in it, right? So like me personally is the goal is like, how do I exit each role that the company will continue to grow and thrive with or without me? I mean, I could still be within it, but maybe I don't want to do day-to-day operations anymore.
Yeah. And I think that, again, for people listening in, that's the question you've got to be asking, right? If you are going to continue to grow and grow fast, having you as a single point of failure, it just completely deflates that curve. You can't go up and scale anytime fast if you're still there. And
like to your point, it becomes that, busy work now. And maybe you don't realize this, but you sort of fall out of passion and you start questioning, like, why did I build this? Even though you've built yourself a good business, but you're feeling trapped because you can't take time off. Maybe you can take a week or two, but that's, the max.
Absolutely. Things are starting to fall apart by day 4.
But how do you imagine yourself taking, a sabbatical for 6 months? Is that possible right now?
Yeah. And it's your brain that you've got to kind of disengage as well, right? Because even if you're going on a holiday for a week and you're still thinking about the business, that's no break.
It takes me 1 week. It takes me 1 week now to get outside of work brain because we're in a habit. Our brain is in a habit of this. Okay, every day I got to do this so you got to wake up every day. For me, my first week on vacation, I got to wake up every day. I'm like, oh, what I got? Wait, I'm on vacation. Oh, wait, I got to. And then by day 7, because my wife is from Europe, so we used to go to Europe. We go to Europe all the time, but since COVID, we haven't gone. By week 2, I'm like, okay, I feel it. So we usually go by 3-4 weeks, right? But the first week is always a disaster.
Yeah, that's right. She doesn't want to talk to you. She's going to sit outside by the pool.
Yeah.
That's the right thing. So Slingshot is very focused around sort of helping, from a technical viewpoint, helping people to, I think communication is a big part of what you do. And there's a number of different things that you're bringing into play as well, and others, some developments too. So do you want to just talk us a little bit about that, how you're sort of almost platforming people to be able to take themselves out of the conversation?
So in terms of Slingshot and where we sit in the marketplace?
Yeah. So, so I know that, that there's obviously the kind of verbal communication side, the audio stuff. And then I think you're creating some spaces for people to be able to interact in different ways too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Slingshot, just reel off just in terms of what we do. We're a telecommunications service provider. We provide phone numbers across US and Canada, everything from like, digital greetings. Thank you for calling. If you know your PARS extension, please dial it now. We've rolled out call center applications for some of our clients that have been growing and scaling as well. So I'm passionate about that. My first job was in telecommunications out of university, working for a company called Nortel Networks. So they built a lot of the backbone of the internet. But some new project in what you're alleviating to or leading to is during COVID, even though I worked from home for a long time now, I realized that the world's not used to that. So during COVID, I started dabbling in different groups of how do I connect with people? How do I do co-working sessions? How do we stay healthy and mentally? And I did many different projects too. I started streaming on Twitch, doing like a virtual co-working space. But ultimately, what I was creating was an open space for people to connect, to co-work, and to celebrate their lives, whether they're entrepreneurs or executives or developers. So I had recently launched Cafe 100X community. It's a co-working community. It's based within the Discord, actually. And man, I just launched it over a month ago, and I have almost 200 people coming through the cafe, hanging out. And I'm super excited about it, Mal, because, if you're an entrepreneur and always looking for new ideas or new collaborations, why not with the younger people who are these citizens of the internet? These people who are in Discord, they were born. Some of them were born 20 years ago in the 2000s already.
Yeah.
And it's such an amazing energy they have, and they build community without even thinking about it. There's entrepreneurs within our generation that can't even figure out how to do Facebook groups, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah,
and you have like your children probably know Discord real good and how to
totally.
They own it. So I built it in there. I have these young people moderating it. I'm learning from connecting people from all around the world.
Wow.
And then I have these co-working spaces where you could drop through. I have functionality where I'd play music, do Pomodoro so you could focus as well. But that's what I'm kind of little pumped up as my side project right now, to be honest. So here's my multi-passionate side of me is like, I have my day job, which is Slingshot, grow, scale, exit myself. And then I have, how do I build community as well? Because I have a number of things that I'm working on as well, but that's what gets me up I have a lot of things that get me up. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful daughter, but my work is pretty driving me too.
Yeah, it sounds so. Yeah, we started talking about kind of the curiosity side. It's clear that you can't stop going and looking at things over there and going, I wonder what that does. And then
you have to have a system too, because you don't want to be this multi-passionate person where you have shiny object syndrome all day, right? And it will take you off. So I actually has been building a system where it's like, no, this is great. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to revisit this in 2 months, for example. Like I work on 100-day cycles. And then I have like 22 days where I'll allow myself to look at these shiny objects. And if it really was something that meant to be, and it's still, that opportunity is still there, then I'll add it to my life. But I think, that's how you have to balance this multi-passionate side as entrepreneurs, or someone who's uber curious and thinks they could do it all, but we still can't do it all. You just have to be able to add it into your life within a system.
Yeah, and I love that system. I think that's so important. Again, people listening in are thinking about how they manage themselves as much as how they manage their teams and the business. So look, really great to hear how you're doing, and thanks so much for that. Now we have a kind of quick fire round of questions I just wanted to throw at you just to see what your kind of instinctive answers are. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice, I would say the best piece of advice I had is to do your best. But the other thing that comes to mind is, and I don't know if it was an advice, a challenge, or a punch of reality. My mom used to tell me that you can't pick money off the streets. So I think I've been mentally, subconsciously trying to prove my mom wrong.
Excellent. And one day you're going to go back and go, look, there it is.
Look, I'm picking up money right now, right? Like it's but my mom was an immigrant, so she it's work hard. That was the culture. So I think so I don't know if that was the advice, if that's the answer you wanted, Mel, but that was coming back in my mind too.
Yeah, that's great. So I love that. So the instinctive thing is, look, it's not there, so I'm going to go and build it and make it happen. Yeah, love it. Do you have somebody who you look up to as a sort of inspiration or a sort of a role model?
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked up to my dad in terms of someone who was just built and had good respect for people and always did hard work. And I also get inspiration from I read a lot, and I get inspired by people that are making moves, like yourself, people who are always out there and giving and making impact. I mean, those are things I'm doing. And lastly, last year when I went through a dip in my emotional state, I said, why I should be, who inspires me? I should be interviewing myself. Like, as I grow, right? So then I'm like looking at myself or my future self and my virtual, my vision boards. I want to inspire myself too. And the way we inspire ourselves, and I'm sure this, Mal, is like always doing our best and always helping people and always creating, because it inspires me to keep creating. So.
Yeah, I love that. And then having that vision of your kind of future self as well, I think is just such a, the sports people talk about it all the time, don't they? That going past the winning line first, that's such an important part of motivating yourself as well. So that's great. Thank you. I wonder if you were to go back and talk to yourself at the start of your career, your entrepreneurial journey, what advice would you give yourself?
I would probably punch myself in the face.
That class of advice, I'd probably
and say, listen, have an exit strategy. Because I think when I was a young entrepreneur, I had this audacious, idealistic sense that I'm going to build something forever. And I didn't really understand what exit strategies meant. It didn't necessarily mean you have to sell, but it's like, how do you build and replace yourself? How do you build and look for the ideal partners to work with? Right? I didn't understand exit strategy.
Right. Got it.
So I think I would give that advice to myself, because I didn't have to. I don't believe I have to give my advice to work hard, do this. Like, I think I had that, but it was this concept of exit strategy I never understood, honestly, Mal, until probably the last year and a half.
Right. Wow. That's really so that showing that, and thank you for doing that, because it is one of those things that's quite difficult. You start, you know how to start. If you work hard, you know how to work hard, but actually having that strategy that is going to, take you out of it in the end is a really difficult thing. So yeah, great advice. Final question. What's next for you? What do you want?
Oh man, that's a great question. I have a number of things on the go, and as things come out, I'd be happy to share more. But with this Cafe 100X co-working space, I also launched sort of a club, a membership club around this multi-passionate concept that I've been doing. It's called the 100X Club. I launched it last month as well, sort of coinciding with Cafe 100X. And I had a number of people who resonated with being a successful entrepreneur, or someone who's but understands that juggling things, you need that supportive community. And yeah, so that's sort of not the next, but I'm growing that ecosystem, this 100X life, because last year I made this audacious goal that I would 100X my tech business in 100 days. And that's what developed that IP of doing things in 100-day cycles. So I want to write a book on that. Yeah,
listen, I buy that. I think it's such a great idea. And I think that structure can be so valuable to so many people as well. And so
thank you.
Genuinely, thank you for sharing that. Now, listen, there's going to be people who want to know more and want to find out about you. How do they get in touch?
Yeah, you could reach me anywhere. I'm at Edwin 100X at most social medias. So Edwin 100X, reach out to me at LinkedIn, connect with me. Happy to connect with you. But I'd be really excited and happy if you drop through Cafe 100X. So you go to cafe100x.com. There's a link, goes directly into my Discord. I'm there every day chatting. I'm co-working there. I'm growing that. So be part of the community. I'll be super excited to have you. And it's looking to be, Mal, a global community. So it's kind of cool.
Brilliant. Listen, can't wait to see it. And thank you once more for all of your advice, help today, and for the invitation too.
Thank you for having me.
Real pleasure. Listen, that was Edwin from Slingshot, another great entrepreneurs here on the Growth Execution Podcast, sharing their knowledge and information, insights into how you can build, launch, and grow your business too. Thank you for listening in. We'll be back next week with another great entrepreneur for you. Have a great growth week, and we'll see you.